go again. Could be episode 18, who knows? It's Henk. De Villiers. De Villiers?
De Villiers Ferreira.
Oh,
Yeah.
I always forget that bit. I always forget everyone's surname or how to pronounce it. Couldn't pronounce Stefan's surname because I never use it. It's Henk. It's
Yeah,
Stefan.
exactly. Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Halfway House, Chaviska, lots of things. An old friend, an old boss.
I don't know about the boss bit, but definitely a
Well, he used to pay-
long-standing friend.
He used to pay me. Your journey in hospitality and cooking and chefing and all other stuff. How did you get from A to B? And where's A? A is South Africa.
A was South Africa. I grew up in a place called King Williamstown, which is now in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. Went to a place called Dale College, lovely school, boys only. Huge disadvantages to that, but anyway, we're going to that another time.
Wherever there's a boys' school, there tends to be a girls' school.
There was a girls' school
Yeah.
down the road.
I went to a boys' school.
Well, exactly.
There's
What
always-
happened to you?
There's always a girls' school.
So in the town was a little steakhouse, and it was a chain of steakhouses called The Spur. It's still going. It's been going for many, many years in South Africa. And I got a job in there.
At what age was that?
Probably 15, 14, 15, in front of us. And in those days, it was different there. The food scene's really, really developed a long way. They don't have Michelin stars in South Africa. They don't have any of that stuff. But there's, globalization is called. Nowadays, when we started cooking, you had the odd cookbook and you learned from your mates, didn't you? Nowadays, if you want to learn something, you go on YouTube and find out how to do it.
Pull out your phone. Yes.
Yeah. So that was 14. Did that. Went to university in Pretoria.
To study.
I wanted to study hotel and tourism management.
Right.
In the end, I just did a basic BCom, which is business and commerce. So the basics, bit of accountancy in there, a bit of marketing in there.
Good skills.
Well, you don't really know until
Yeah.
it's very difficult to quantify what
hindsight-
you've studied and what you do with it.
Yeah, but I
Right.
think, when Dan did his options,
Yeah.
the only thing I said to him, I said, geography, why don't you take business studies instead of geography?
It's a good
Because
shout.
business studies may be a bit more helpful than geography.
Yeah, see, at school we were all science-based. So I did physical science, chemistry, biology, geography, maths. Those were the subjects. And then I finished school in 1991. And a lot of what happened in South Africa was politically minded. So in those days, there was a company called Sun International. They're still in existence in some form or another. And they had a beach resort called Mbekweni Sun. And 1991 in South Africa was a tumultuous time. There was. I was very lucky in my family. My dad was a Christian, always has been. We didn't have racism in the house. The country lived in racism. Okay? You can't quantify it unless you've seen it with your own eyes. You can't quantify how and why that came to be. So subsequently, my school, Dale College, in 1990, we had the first black two boys join our class.
Right.
One of them was the ambassador of Ghana's son, and another one was the son of a surgeon. Now the same school, same ethos, lots of cultural influences, still the same uniform, same war cry, same everything, is 98% black boys, and they are delivering superhuman beings.
War cry.
Yeah.
Got to pick up on that. Your school
Well,
had
the
a
school
war
war
cry.
cry, yeah.
Okay.
It's all the schools there have something of that matter.
Okay.
And it's that brotherhood thing, and I wouldn't swap my schooling for anything. You look back and you go, I wish I'd done a bit more of that, or I wish I did a bit more of that. But really, it wasn't a privileged school.
No.
It was just the way it was. And the Eastern Cape was pretty much the hotbed of where all the democracy origin. Nelson Mandela went to Fort Hare University just up the road. Steve Biko comes from my town.
Right.
If you know the South African sort of freedom history, Steve Biko was a phenomenal human being, and who suffered at the hands of the then government, and sadly didn't survive. But you know, he had a thing called the Black Consciousness Movement. It was a conscious thing about it was. He was an important factor in you know, because remember, a lot of the battle there wasn't necessarily whether you feel free or not. The battle was, can you get enough food to eat today? Can you provide for your children? Can you put a roof over your head? And you know, Africa is still like that, as is lots of other parts of the world. So us boys who sort of work with food every day, and you know, we don't really have hungry bellies, although we're trying to force ourselves to lose weight. But yeah, it was, you know, I remember as a kid we were playing golf. So the golf course was lovely. It doesn't exist anymore, but we had a little municipal golf course called Williamstown Country Club. And there was no racism there, because it was such a, you know, it was such a intellectual place, really, with University of Ferreira up the road. You know, my friends, I played a lot of golf. There was a guy that was out, he was a guy called Ivan Quelani. Sadly, he's passed away now. Phenomenal golfer. He wasn't very tall, he was like 5 foot something, but he was a phenomenal golfer. And he took all of us sort of under his wing and taught us. He gave me my first pair of golf shoes. Wow. You know, a black, in those days, disadvantaged man. And he was my friend. And, you know, and we learned so much from these people that survived through adversity, like serious adversity, you know. And yeah, it's a good place. The rules are different, but it's a good place, and the people are amazing. You know, the people are amazing. I haven't got a bad word to say about the place in any way, shape, or form, and it certainly shaped me as a young man. You know, I digressed really, but basically, you know, on that political basis, there was a lot of strike action, right? Which is economic action. It's like sort of internal sanctions, really. And that doesn't Pequea his son, you know, the majority of the permanent staff, you know, population-wise, was all, were all sort of local black people, and went on strike. And they advertised for sort of summer seasonal jobs, and I went down and did that for a few months. Got experience in you know, the Spur was sort of steak and chips and sauce. I haven't really moved on much from that. But at this place in Pequea his son, the chef, the head chef, was a German guy called Hans Ranschke. Big old, you know, liked his food, German boy. And he was obviously European trained. He came down there and they just did, it was buffet food, big hotel style buffet food, but not different, just another way of seeing things. And having that guy's influence, he didn't really influence me that much, but you could just see the stuff that he did and the way he did things, you know. And he was German.
Well, you know, if you think there is another way, well, there's also going to be another way as well. You know, you show there are options out there.
It's the thing with cooking. None of us have the same techniques. We've all got different skill sets, you know, and ultimately it's about getting a plate of food on the table, or on the table where your customers are sitting, or your guests, your friend, or your family. And we sell the cure for hunger. There's lots of other things attached to it, you know. And it's called hospitality, isn't it? You don't go to a restaurant. The big joy in life is sitting around with your mates talking nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
that's why we're here today.
Yeah. Well, listen, we talk a lot of nonsense.
Just this time we're filming it.
This time we're filming it. It's like, you know,
share your
slight
journey.
Pressure there, right? But yeah, it was, and that experience in that hotel, in a professional corporate sort of hotel environment, gave me a real hunger for the industry.
Right.
I was never able to see any other career path. Went to University of Pretoria, got a job in those days, you know, the place was called Pirates Cove and the Oyster Bar in Linwood Road up in Pretoria. Went to University of Pretoria. And this place was buzzing. Live music, you know, bars. It was owned by a couple of Lebanese boys, Jeff and Mark Nofel. Jeff Nofel, big Lebanese guy like that, and he had he was on his 50th restaurant, you know, he was one of those serial restaurateurs. Different concepts, different things. This one was particularly good, considering it was 1992, 1993. And he taught me one thing about atmosphere in restaurants. and I don't know anything about interiors. I don't know anything about any colours, nothing, got no idea. But what he's told me was to generate atmosphere, or atmosphere in a restaurant depends on the ceiling.
Okay.
And the ceiling needs to be darker than the rest of the room.
Right.
And that, I can't remember what the psychology was, but that's what he sort of believed. And I sort of never forgot that bit of wisdom from him, you know, in terms of restaurants. It was a good place. They had a chef. The chef that was sort of the main spanner there was a Scottish guy called Colin Little. And we, at some stage during that operation, we ended up doing, like you do now, a little bit of private catering at sort of a conference-style centre. And a lot of my South African stories is politically minded, because in that conference centre they had, this was 1992, 93, prior to the elections, or the first free elections for that matter, and there was sort of, there was a massive Zulu party called the Inkatha Freedom Party, that's still going now, and their leader was a guy called Villiers, and they were sort of at the other side of the ANC, but still fighting for the same cause. And the Inkatha boys were trying to make an alliance with, I can't remember what the party was called, but sort of a party that was headed by a former commander of the South African sort of apartheid army, a guy called Villiers. And they were having meetings, like secret meetings in this conference place. Can't remember what it was called, and we were sort of catering for them, you know, and seeing these very, very people that sort of shaped what happened in South Africa, seeing them sort of close out. We never listened, we could never hear any of the conversations in that. It was quite a phenomenal thing to sort of walk into a room or serve somebody or cook something for Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Phenomenal man. Zulu, you know. We have a lot of time for the Zulus in South Africa. It's a very powerful race. Amazing people, you know, brave. What you see in the movies is true. Phenomenal people. So that was sort of South Africa. Then I did that, worked in another few sort of places, nightclubs, restaurants. And then 1996, one of my friends called Glenn Binking, he's still involved in football. We were sort of involved with the South African Football Association. And we had a tournament that came down there, which was in those days called the Africa Cup of Nations. It's now called the Cup of Nations or something. And we had 16 teams. Well, actually, there was only 15 teams in this tournament in 1996, which was Nigeria. There was a lot of violence in Nigeria, and they sort of withdrew. But Glenn sort of shouted out to us, do we want to be liaison officers? So there was a team called Ghana, proper football team, and they had a couple of players in their team that was phenomenal and like really famous. One from the UK called Anthony Yeboah, who scored in the previous season, played for Leeds, scored 2 phenomenal goals. It's still on the television now when you go and watch Match of the Day. I don't know if Match of the Day even exists anymore, but it's a very, very, very famous goal. And this guy's left-footed and he scored it with his right foot. So you know, we also had like the pick of which team. So I obviously went out, I'd like to go and work with Ghana, please. Met the boys and travelled with the team for 8 weeks. Eventually we lost in the semi-final to South Africa in Joburg. You know, I sat on the bench with 80,000 people. It was a phenomenal experience. You know, cultural experience like you cannot explain. During that tournament I met an English guy, became friendly with him. And sort of within 6 months to a year after that, I decided to come and check out the UK. So arrived here in May 1997, knocked up my mate. He had a friend in London who I crashed with for a bit in Hammersmith. Said friend, who's called Ian, was an offshore powerboat racer, and his brother lived in Cornwall.
Right.
And I met his brother in London, we had a few pints, and he said, oh, you want to come down to Cornwall? So I got a lift with Ian down to Plymouth. He had an offshore boat race meeting. Bruce picked me up. And the first night I ever lived in Cornwall, I stayed in Sanusi.
Oh, right.
And it's, you know, 25 years later, I'm half a mile away from it.
Right.
And so that's how I ended up in Cornwall. Got a job at the then Trevelgi Hotel outside of Newquay.
Right.
After that, got a job at Wen Manor.
Okay.
Remember Wen Manor?
I do remember Wen Manor.
Paul Stratton Downs and Joe. Joe did the cooking. Paul was front of house. They live in St Judy now, I think. did a bit there, and then in 99, 98, went and worked at the Halfway House for a few years. Then went down to Padstow, did a bit there with Chick.
Do you do butchery? When's the butchery part of your?
That will, so Halfway House, then I did another pub in Wadebridge, and because I could work with a knife, as a chef you can keep a knife sharp, one of my friends worked at St Mary Meats,
Yeah.
and there were jobs then, there were well paid jobs in those days. So I went into the factory at St Mary Meats and worked on the boning line. It was never a boner, those guys really skilled, they're still around, Denzel, there's a guy in Padstow called Martin Rick, who I used to work with in there, he was sort of top on the line, phenomenal. What these guys did in that meat factory was phenomenal. Terry had he had the bodies on chains, it's called liberators, and they'd come in hanging. So in the old days you'd bone out on a block, and it was heavy on your body and all these things. He changed the whole meat industry, the whole dynamic. Don't know where he got the idea from. But the bodies used to come in at the bottom of the boning hall. Still today. Came into the bottom of the boning hall and everybody did a certain job.
Yeah.
The new guys were packing at the other side of it. So we spend I never had a knife in my hand there. We both spend most of the time, packing. And it's heavyweight. We used to do in those days, start at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you do 2,000, 2,200, 2,400 quarters of beef, 40 boys in the team. And it's 2 degrees, 1 degree in there.
Brutal.
And you'd be, you had like a little white overalls and South Africa call them gumboots, they call them Wellingtons here. And by 15 minutes in, you were I used to have a little vest underneath my 1 degree. But saw a lot of beef there.
Yeah.
Saw a hell of a lot of beef there. And the love of it. And it's industrial, but it's not industrial because it's an old chap that I'm really friendly now with called Bart Stacey. He used to be the beef buyer for St Mary Meats. And so he used to know all the farmers, and I don't know how they bought or whether they paid well or whatever the case might be. I never had any privy to that. But Bart had knowledge on beef, and he'd go to all the beef that used to come into us was local. The slaughter hall was next door. Animals would come in, they'd go through the process, and we'd be on the other side boning it out and putting all the different bits around. Proper boys in there, like real hard. That's real work, that.
Yeah.
Not like standing around chefing, pretending you're cooking something. So I did that for a bit, and then went to Trevose. Went to Trevose, where I first met you, I think. So first became aware of you.
Yeah, I was trying to think about.
Well, no, I first became aware of you when I was working at the Golden Line for Chico.
Okay.
And you were around the corner in Margot's.
Yeah.
And Dave was with you.
Yeah.
And because Dave was Ghanaian,
I had a good footballer.
I had a little, yeah, see, he wasn't quite good enough to make the Ghanaian team, but fit man. What an unbelievable human
Only
being.
mentioned him the other day because we were trying to lift something in the kitchen. I said, I wish Dave was with me because he picked up my Hobart on his own because it was broken and just
superhuman.
And with the Hobart, with all that weight's at the top,
Yeah.
so a bugger to carry, and he just went like that and bear hugged it and took it out to my car.
Yeah,
when
so-
we'd have taken 2 of us to carry it into the kitchen. But yeah,
So Dave, yeah,
Loved Dave.
He's still chefing. I think he's up sort of Devon way now.
yeah,
But he worked with Novelli, as you know. So he had a skill set, man,
he's a phenomenal
and
guy.
a knowledge.
Yeah,
And a knowledge, and he knew who he was. He knew himself.
yeah.
He knew what he could do, and he was, honestly, we used to go to the gym all the time. And what he could do was phenomenal.
I still, well, it's been maybe 2 years since I've called on his services for a wedding or something like that, and he'd turn up, and he brought a cousin last time who was as hard a worker as he was.
He just,
Can produce quality so quick, so consistently.
just grafted.
Yeah.
Loved Scotch bonnets, loved them. And then, of course, with John, so I worked with John at the Quarryman for a bit, and John Lees, do you know John?
Part of
He's
your
back
little international chef
Yeah,
group.
yeah. So John,
Yeah.
John was from Weybridge, went to school in Weybridge, went away to work up country a bit, and came back down here. And he he just had a talent, and he really understood the principles of cooking. You know, and so a lot of the stuff that he taught me back those days, I still apply every day now. Phenomenal palate, phenomenal talent, phenomenal skill set, understated, humble, never talks about what he does. He then went off and did the yachts and worked privately in Thailand for a long time.
I bumped into him within the last year, and I can't remember where we bumped into.
Oh, I see him every day now.
I don't know where he was, but
He's back at the minute, looking after back in Weybridge, not between jobs, but he's looking after his dad, who's sort of, and he's sort of going to go back. His last job was in Florida on one of those super yachts there, charter yacht.
so you
Phenomenal
went.
chef.
Let's get back to your career.
Yeah.
Golf club.
Golf club, yeah.
Chef
did that.
there, head chef there. I can't
Well,
remember.
team chef there, eh?
Team.
We sort of, it was a team of us, me and Dave and John, and we had great fun there cooking. You know, we had like, because I had a little connection by then with the meat industry and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's a little braggy story, but it's not a braggy story. Because I'm a golfer and I play a bit of golf, and you know, every now and again I had a friend who I used to be on the tour, and I'd caddy for him. And we were doing a job at Camberwell Park. This is 2012, 2013. And I had a little Trevose Golf Club t-shirt on, you know, walking up to the first tee. There was a father and son. The son was the aspiring young golf professional, and the father was obviously a golfer. And the guy saw my badge and he went, "Oh, Trevose Golf Club." I said, "Yeah, you know." And he goes, "Oh," I said, "We went down there a few years ago, and I had the best meal that I've ever had in my life there." I said, "Oh, what was it? What was it?" And he said, "Oh, it was like fillet steak, bit of foie gras on top, potato rosti, you know." Dave and John, it was a combination of our dishes. And I just said to them, I didn't say to the man, "Look, I used to be the cook there or cook there." I said, "Oh, I know the chef. When I see him, I'll tell him." You know, just kept it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's really nice. It's the simple, you know, the simple things where you can, and that guy didn't think about the chefs who made that dish, but the fact that he went there to play around the golf, had dinner there, and had a meal that he didn't expect. And that became a memory for him of the place. So you know, which is what we do. We don't just do the cure for hunger, but we give people, if we do it right, and if they're receptive to what you try and do, it becomes part of their memory.
You're taking the words out of my mouth. I used my first head chef at a hotel. I've probably said this on the podcast before. He said, "We don't feed people." He said, "If any of these people skipped a meal, tonight's meal, they're not going to die. They'll still wake up in the morning. They'll be hungry, but they're not going to die out of hunger." He said, "We sell memories, good memories. Sometimes they're bad memories. You know, when you mess up, it's a bad memory, but we sell memories." And he goes, that stuck with me as, you know, we're selling time, moments in time that people will remember. And they'll remember the food and they'll remember the atmosphere and, you know, the little things that you think from the outside are not important.
Well,
they become very important, like, I don't know, just a little attention to detail becomes very important in the whole experience.
I think there's I mean, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head because it's about the customer's experience. It's got nothing to do with us.
Oh, yeah.
That man and that golf club experience had a wonderful experience. He had no knowledge about who the chef was, how important the chef thought he was. None of that nonsense. Okay, we are, you know, this whole industry that we operate in, you know, and there's a massive difference between a chef in a restaurant or a chef in a pub or a private chef like you, and a chef who's on the television and is in the entertainment industry, providing entertainment with his skill of cooking.
Yeah.
And generally you find those guys with very big names around us that does that. Those guys have a humility about them.
Yeah.
You know, and I really struggle with this. It's not self-importance, but given how little we impact people's lives, and how little through the economy we actually earn from what we do. You know, the only thing that chefs do is socially we bat above our average.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're in a chef environment, it's not like...
You meet all sorts of people.
We're very grateful for that, you know.
And because we're in a chef's life, that's
Yeah,
like a... What's the word? if you're in a suit in your job, that kind of defines you.
Yeah.
And if you're, I don't know, a chef's jacket, it kind of access all areas.
Well, that's
In a kind of way of when people are in a restaurant, they meet the chef. I feel very comfortable in a chef jacket talking to someone. If I haven't got my chef jacket on, sometimes I'm a bit less comfortable talking to people because it's
Oh, look,
it's your badge, it's your uniform, it's
yeah,
identity.
but it's sort of of course it is. I mean, the chef jacket is it's not for it's there to protect you from the environment that you're working in. It's not there for you to sort of catch attention. You know?
No, but when you meet people in a chef jacket, that kind of it takes the place of any. It's a blank canvas.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
a-
As opposed to if you're looking at if I turned up at a golf club to play golf,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the right attire. I would stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that.
If I turned up in chef's whites working when I helped what's his name, Steve out at
Yeah.
Poundport for a week, chef's whites, then you just talk to customers and he's a chef or a chef.
You're a cook. And with, you know, not chef is the English word, for, you know, or chef is the French word for cook, isn't it? So it's not. The point I'm trying to make is, I think it's much more about the customer than any self-importance in the kitchen. And it's all about the customer, and it'd be lovely, you know. I'd much rather the world give credit to the heart surgeons that are saving lives, and the brain surgeons, and the people that are really making a difference.
Yeah.
You know, the air ambulance chopper pilots and the paramedics. Those boys they can be pedestaled. All this chefy nonsense, it's a load of bollocks.
I was did a garden party in the summer, yeah. Lovely event, cooking on a hog roast, but not doing a hog roast,
Yeah.
using it as a big oven. And a lady came up and she goes, "Oh, it's all marvellous, marvellous. Oh, I just couldn't cope with the pressure of this." And I said, "There's no pressure, it's cooking dinner, it's cooking tea." I said, "What do you do for a living?" She goes, "Oh, I'm a nurse." And I went, "Talk about pressure.
That's pressure.
You're, making people better. You know, in a crisis and health, they're the really important things. Because I couldn't do your job, because you think I would be a fucking mess. Because your job really matters. You know, it really makes a difference. If I mess up, bad review, upset people, but the world still turns. If you're looking after people's health, or if you're a social worker, or a therapist, or people or teachers, people that actually make a difference to people's lives. It's, so this pedestal thing, you're absolutely right. And
yeah,
also,
it's not for
and
me.
also I think the chef thing, it takes you quite a while to realise that the most important people in your business are, or as important are your front of house.
Oh.
Because good service, good front of house will rescue the situation. Doesn't matter how good that plate of food is, it will never rescue bad service. It will not, it can't bring that back.
I just think the plate of food, the service, the everything. A plate of food doesn't lie. A plate of food doesn't bullshit. A plate of food doesn't make an excuse. And we all know that the biggest challenge to small businesses like ours is consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency goes down to staff training. I know, you've had conversations with some of our other friends on this about staff training and how important that is. And you look at the businesses that are standout in our industry, and they have, and I won't embarrass them by calling them out, but they have phenomenal staff culture.
Yeah.
And staff training and giving, you look at Padstow, and you look at, I'll name it like Stein's, you look at the effect that Stein's, or the business of Stein's, not just Rick, but Rick and Jill, them coming down, the whole way, the whole thing's evolved.
What do you think, how many people have gone through that process of being trained? Literally hundreds and thousands,
With that, the benefit of that phenomenon that happened, it's 50 years that seafood restaurant's been going, okay? the amount of people that have been employed through there, the amount of people that have been given skills,
Exactly.
like real skills,
Which
to
then-
be productive human beings, you know.
Which then filters out.
And those Padstow boys, you know, there's, I could name handfuls of the lads that, had they not been in a family in Padstow, they were in a family in, I don't know the rest of the country, but say in Scotland somewhere in a little village with similar ethos, their prospects would be very limited. The amount of skilled service people and chefs and hospitality that is fed out of that town, and the amount of mortgages that those wages are paid, and the amount of knowledge that those people, the whole community is gained from one restaurant evolving. You know, it's not down to one person or two people, or somebody had to front it, somebody had to have the idea to put it there. But if you look at the success of the seafood, and there's just been so many factors. The biggest factor was graft, absolute graft, you know, and you know the short-term pressure. There's two pressures in hospitality. It's the short-term pressure of the short order cooking when we're doing service. That's all about preparation and trying to space it out a little bit and trying to keep the standard. And that is the most exhilarating pressure that you can have. Okay, the long-term pressure is how do you survive your business? How do you know, the financial pressure is the long-term pressure, which is not, you know, if you're in a profitable business, it's an easy thing to do. But the reality is the amount of work that goes in to establish that short-term pressure. Because the short-term pressure is not a given because you might not have customers.
Yeah.
You know?
But you can equate it to, I did 13 on Tuesday. Arrive at 6 in the evening there. Leave around 10:30, 11,
Yeah.
probably 10:30. So it's 4.5 hours. But to do that 4.5 hours, there's a full day of prep Monday and a full day prep Tuesday. To do that short pressure of get the beef right, get the bass right, I don't know what the other things were, mackerel. But also, and that's the exhilaration of for the private work. You go into kitchens you don't know.
Oh, that's a challenge, isn't
You know, turning on ovens. You know, I go into pretty much any commercial kitchen. I'll get the oven on for you. You go to a domestic one, they're all different. They've got too many features, too many knobs. You know, they're a challenge in itself. Anyway, we're going to get back to your career because I just want to get.
I don't know if I've got a career. I just feel
Well,
potatoes and love doing it.
You did the golf club.
Yeah. Then Kingsley Village.
Then Kingsley Village, which was
2008 onwards.
and there's a cafe.
It was a cafe.
Out to shopping for these people who
Cafe
don't know
like
Cornwall.
so Kingsley Village in those days was it's now Kingsley Village was sort of the ethos was a local Cornish thing, and the chaps who developed it were a family called the Simpsons, like real hard-working boys. They had a food hall that you call it a Harrods style food hall. That was certainly the vision. It just and they did some phenomenal things in that food hall. And one of the spin-offs, not the spin-offs, but they had a mezzanine level that had a cafe on it. And they needed somebody to operate the cafe in sort of daytime hours, that little baby at home. It was perfect to get stuck into. And that sort of started the whole Sunday carvery phenomenon. That's still a big part of my life. And we did numbers there.
Yeah.
You know, we did numbers there.
So that was 2000
2008.
2008.
I think, yeah, left the golf club, went there. And then sort of and to be honest, they were always truthful. They were always saying that if this doesn't work out, it will be a good retail site, and it certainly turned out to be that.
Yeah.
You know, they've got some very big boys in there now, Marks and Spencers, Next, and the rest, because the location was good. You know, for our sort of businesses that are not led by media. So when I say not led by media, not led by big named guys that sort of got a media presence. Mm-hmm. The passing traffic is important.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, the main road in and out of Cornwall. You could see it, it was visible.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of business there, And nice, you know, lots of local customers, lots of repeat customers, it was a fun time.
Yeah.
You know, it was really a fun time. We worked hard, it was a fun time. It was daytimes only, it was so easy, in hindsight, compared to what we're doing now.
So the Kingsley Village, then
Kingsley Village, then came back to the halfway house in 2016.
Yeah.
Opened that up. Same time, got planning permission with Mark and Sean Sandry to build a little cafe on their garden centre outside of Padstow.
Yeah.
Got that, opened the cafe in 2017. And with you.
Well, yeah. Originally it was going to be Steve Marsh. I remember being on site because Steve had come up, and I don't know why, but we were all three of us stood on the concrete slab. That's all it was the concrete slab and some pipe sticking out.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Steve is going to be, in our patch working with you and doing a brand new thing. And then he changed his mind, or something else came up, and he wasn't going to do it. And then he called me.
We had a conversation.
And then we had a conversation.
You have, and still do, I think, have the most amazing brand of Margot's. Margot's in Padstow.
Yeah.
Was the thing that you did, which was so commendable. You were your own man. Okay.
That's all you can do. I think.
And Margot certainly was such a unique site, and the character that you were. You were ahead of the game in terms of technology compared to all of us. I don't know how to turn a computer on, and you were already doing interesting work, on that side.
Free, anything free, I was out of a go at. Because social media,
Well, those days there was no Facebook or any of that stuff. There wasn't. I remember
Well, I bought it in '99.
Yeah.
Started working in '96. Bought it in '99. Internet really kicked off '97,
Yeah.
'98. So, well, for me, and a lot of exploding home use of it. But anyway,
Yeah.
so Taviska and halfway.
Yeah, and sort of that's then we had challenges.
Oh Christ, we had challenges. I mean, I'll go on record of saying this. I lost my mind at Taviska, Margot's at Taviska. And I don't know if it was a job or just my mental health or just a burnout or I don't know what. And
do you know what? It was.
We did open in August.
Yeah, we actually opened in the middle of July.
Did we?
Yeah.
I always thought it was August.
And then we hit August, and there was all sorts of. Look, it's a great time to open a business, but Jesus, it exposes you, doesn't it?
Well, and I've always said, because you have a following, Henk, from the stuff that you've done.
Yeah.
The garden centre has been there 20 years.
Yeah.
They have a following, people interested in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I've been around, and people are interested in what I'm doing. So you've got three groups of people, all
Sort of
interested
throwing
in
it together, yeah.
into this new site. So that's the locals. Plus, then you've got visitors who are, good point, visible on the road in, good parking.
Yeah.
All those things that are tricky in Padstow. Oh, we can park for free.
Well, that was the ethos, when we asked for the planning permission, the town council at the time said, look, anything that encourages, that provides free parking and encourages people, because Padstow gets so congested,
Yeah.
for all the right reasons, they really supported the application.
Well, that makes sense.
And it made a lot of sense, and it certainly, we're still there, and it's still ticking.
That's the thing.
and
I was
we had-
there this morning,
And we had a
having
great
breakfast with
time.
my family.
Yeah, and it's sort of, but Adrian, you coming in there, we needed a leader. I'm not really, I've never had the willingness to be a front man for anything. I just wanted to be able to work and do what we
You're
do.
very cards close to the chest kind of guy.
Well, no,
You
it's
listen
just,
more than you talk, I think.
thank you, Adrian.
And you listen to this now. When I had my troubles mentally at Taviska, you asked some really big questions of me, and they were nothing to do with work or the business. They were just about me.
Yeah.
I'll never forget
Yeah, but
how
surely,
understanding you were of my situation.
yeah, but the reality is, I think kindness is a conscious thought. It's not something that, it's not kindness, and the world works in really funny things, and who knows what's the right path, who knows what's the right way to be, or who knows what's the, and we're in the hospitality industry. My mother was a social worker. She's very. It's about. So I grew up in a family where you put other people first, which I'd like to think that that sort of grounding made me really suitable to be in hospitality business, because hospitality is about putting other people first and seeing to their needs and being servitude. You know, I'm trying to make a living by being servitude. I want to serve you. I want to look after you. I want to make sure you're okay. I want to make sure your belly's full. I want to be able to give you a hug if you're having a tough time. You can do the same for me. You know, and isn't that the humanity of what we do that's important?
Yeah. But also it's, you know, the real life of a new business, a new investment, new pressures, all that, and you know, I had to bail. I couldn't do it. I wasn't in a fit state to do it.
Yeah, but
you had no.
It was nothing to do with your ability. It was to do with the pressures and the stuff that you were feeling inside yourself.
It was, you know, it was me, and I couldn't do it, and that's just a fact. And I'm okay with that. I'm also glad that I tried it with you, because if I hadn't,
look,
then you would never know. You know, I've done lots of things that I go, well, they didn't work out, but I've never regretted doing them, because the not doing them would have probably eat at you later in life and go, well, what if you had a go at that? You know.
Well, and our friendship was, you know, I always still do. I like being with people that I can look up to, right? So you created the Margot's things, and let's forget about the branding. We'll go to the branding, the Margot's branding in a minute, but you have a skill set. So I like to learn a skill set from my friends, you know, and the stuff that you taught me and I showed, and you know, some of the dishes I can call them now, you know, and it was just you had. And it's a skill set that doesn't just come from, the skill set comes from experience and working hard. It's not a skill set that you've gone on YouTube somewhere. It's just, I've been doing this for so many years. This is what I do. This is what works for me. Bread.
Yeah.
Who taught me how to bake bread?
I don't know. You?
Well, you did via Dave, you know.
Oh, I see.
Who taught us how to make sticky toffee pudding?
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay. Every sticky toffee pudding in this county is your recipe. I don't know where you get it. You've got to give credit to somebody else. But that recipe it runs through all of us like blood runs through our veins. You know? So the influence that you've had, without even, I'm not going to say to you every day, oh, mate, your sticky toffee, well, I discuss it a lot with you actually. But so when Margot's closed down, okay, it left this void.
Yeah.
In the little community of pasta. You know, there's some big boys there, and Paul had already, at that time, really become a phenomenal. The Steins group, Rick, phenomenal, you know. But you had this, and still do, you had this, it's a very unique...
It's a smallness.
No, it's not a smallness.
It's a one-man band-ish kind of thing.
It's the love that there was for you, and the love that there was for Margot, and the love that there still is for the history and the lady that started it, and the lady that took it on. That little business, or that little brand, that little name, Margot, had a massive influence on so many people without you realizing any of it.
Yeah.
You were too busy fighting the daily battles of having a business.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. But the love that people have for you. So when we had a site up the road and we needed somebody with knowledge, I needed somebody like, Adrian, should we do this?
Yeah.
You know, the dynamic was, it was an unknown to all of us.
Yeah.
I knew that I had a model from Kingsley Village that I needed to create on a small, and I knew I sort of, because it worked at Kingsley Village, it needed adjustment, but the principle was the same.
Yeah. If we did it again, if we had a second go at it, it'd be amazing from the get-go. We would have not had these really harsh lessons to learn.
We were blind. You know, we were blind. But blind with the basis of that knowledge and the skill set and the love for you.
Well, you've evolved it. You see, it's gone in the direction that works, and you've learned on experience year on year, and the offering you have. And then same with the pub. I mean, you used to compete against yourself with two venues, and I think the pub's doing its best stuff over the last few years. I've been there with Russ, and he doesn't give out compliments readily.
But you know, it's like the team there. You know, Eddie's a proper chef, really good background. You know, Anne, who's with me at the cafe, And Anne and I have worked together for, it must be coming on 15, 16, 17 years now. You know, she is culturally as Cornish as they get, which makes her amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, she's got grit, she's got resilience, she doesn't get phased, she hates people being late, she's brutal, you know.
I was very rude to her this morning, and I said I'm going to blame it on my cold, but yeah, I do. I still call her and see her.
Oh, you know, it's the people that make little businesses like that.
Oh, she's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
You know, and you know, I wouldn't want to sort of speculate as to her age, but she's got more power in her
Yeah.
than all of us.
And I
put
remember
together.
when I first went there, and all the people going, "Oh, Anne, she's where is Anne? She's like fierce," and I was like, "Oh Christ!" Because we did a bit of work before the cafe was ready. It was still being built.
Yeah.
We were halfway doing
The
research,
preparation bit,
development, and just generally hanging
playing
out.
with ideas, you know.
And I was like really cautious of, oh my God, Anne's this character. And we just got on famously from the get-go. And I was like,
You know
I think
what?
it's because of this lateness. You know, she doesn't tolerate crap from anyone. She sets, this is the standard, and she doesn't deviate.
You know, we
So if you're at that level, you know, you can be your best mates because you're on the same page.
It's a very simple thing, okay? So I do metaphors about how I respect people, and the biggest thing that, this is so arrogant, but is the biggest respect that I can show somebody or wish to show somebody, say, if I have to fight for the death, who do I want on my back fighting in the other corner?
Yeah.
Or, you know, and in that world, it's Anne.
Yeah.
She's got, you know, we're lucky with, you know, with Trubiscas and it's a good site, and Mark and Sean are lovely people, you know, and the changes that's coming, and you know, and the growth that we're sort of trying to put through, because obviously with the kindness you do all sorts of other things, and you know, with the ethos of giving that I've tried to have in my life, always, you know, you kind of think it's you know, it's you never give to receive anything back. Giving, and that not just giving material things, because we don't have much material things to give, but giving somebody something to eat, or try this, or try that, or try that, or have this, or have that, you know, is important. There's joy in giving.
Oh God, yeah. Well, it's exactly the same as helping people out, looking after people in you know, tough times.
Yeah.
Because, and you can do it selfishly, because it helps you deal with your own issues if you can help someone deal with their issues. And you know, the stuff I do for other people, a lot of the time it's kind of selfish of me to do it, because I know it will help me feel better or get things in
Yeah, but
perspective.
is that selfish to look after your own well-being?
Yeah, I guess. But you know, you're not doing it.
And if you're under pressure, you know, when me and you went into the Margot's at Trubiscas thing, you know, for me it was just complete trust in what you could do, and you did it. You know, the fact that we went from a 20-seater restaurant to a 100-seater restaurant with, and you know, and I think the biggest pressure that you put on yourself there was, we're doing 3 services and you're cooking every single meal.
Yeah.
You know, it was because that's what you've always done.
Yeah.
You know, and that was psychological or physiological, but I think physiologically that was such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And you just did it. You did it, and you didn't back down. You just did it.
It was.
You know, and I think, you know, I know you're going about your mental health and you had a crash, but yes, you might have had a crash, but I think the trigger for the crash was exhaustion rather than.
Yeah, it could be.
Rather than.
Who knows?
You know, but I know you've survived it, and you're a better person. You've grown, and you know, you've never been a bad person. We've never had. I have always looked up to you, and what a privilege to be doing so.
Oh God, enough already.
You know, it's the truth.
Um,
And then sort of, well, so TK was phenomenal in terms of what we were able to do during lockdown.
oh yeah. Yeah, that was impressive. You did.
No, there's nothing impressive about it.
It was.
TK in lockdown, and the gods aligned with us when everything else was, that was, and I think we're still sort of paying, as a country, as a nation, as a universe, we're still paying the price for that,
Right.
for what happened there, and it's easy to go look back and say, oh yeah, but they got this and that wrong. But the reality was, it was trying to save lives,
Yeah.
and I was lucky, I guess, because the cafe lent itself to, we had 2 entrances.
It's isolated.
It's out of the way, and it's wind everywhere. You're not around any. There's nobody that lives around us. Auntie Beryl, Mark's auntie across the road, but she's 300 yards away. Yeah. And what happened there was, and Lee, bless him, Lee was a phenomenal human being. We just stood back and said, well, what do we do now? When the government announced, because it was on a Sunday. It was the Friday before Mother's Day. So we had all the food in and everything. And I was looking at the media, because I think my brother was in China, my brother was in Europe and sort of had a little bit more, whether the media did it differently, but he living in South Africa, he said to me, look, there's something going on in the world, you just got to keep your eyes peeled here. Something's going on. Okay, we don't quite know, and he mentioned the old Wuhan thing because he's a scientist. And then, and I sort of took note of what's going on, and we, the first time it hit big news for us, well, I lied, because 2 or 3 weeks prior to that lockdown, the first lockdown happening, we went to the brewery to Twickenham, and we stayed in a little hotel, and the taxi driver that picked us up drove us around, and he showed us some hotel or something there, that great big, massive, high, like, 10-meter high white walls around it, where people that were coming in, who were testing, were putting this place to isolate. And it was like something out of the zombie movies. And it was like for this taxi driver, certainly for us, it was like go look at this. This is like, and you just, and part of me sort of went, God, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then I looked at what happened in Italy, but basically in Italy what they did was, Italy was 2 weeks ahead of us in terms of the COVID outbreak. And Bergamo, I think, I remember watching the not Italian news, but British news or BBC, talking about what's going on in Italy, and people were dying, but they were all the businesses were shut 2 weeks before ours did, but they allowed food shops to stay open. Not restaurants, food shops. And I thought, I never evolved in a completely different way, but I never thought food shop, I'm going to make a food shop. I just went, shit, I've got to do something here. What happens if we get locked down, which we did? And I had a discussion with a guy in London, and I was on the phone to him, and I said, look, I think they're going to follow what they did in Italy by locking us down. He said, no, never, they can't afford to do this, blah, blah, blah. And they did on the Friday. So I think the day before, the Thursday, I went down to Kevin Williams down in St Allen and got a load of potatoes, chucked it in the back of the van, drove up to the cafe and put a sign on my social media with potatoes on saying potatoes for sale. So I had proof that I was a food shop. Even though I wasn't, we were a little cafe. And then one thing led to one thing led, and we were able to put a bit of food in there to sell, and we started doing, it was Lee's idea to start doing takeaway. So we started doing takeaway fish and chips. And and then we were lucky because we were able to space it out. There was a one way in, one way out, and Lee sort of did, and one of the big factors in what we did in that sort of few months was there was a lady called Lynn. I was very friendly with her husband. Sadly, she lost him, Jeremy. Lovely man. And Lynn was, the biggest, I think, the biggest sociological fallout of that was the real effect of loneliness. Okay, and I think that's still very much prevalent today. But bless her, Lynn rang me up and she said, Henk, like you do little fish and chips for some of the old years of Paso, do you think if I can come and drop them off? Can I come in? And I said, yeah, of course you can. So she turned up one day to take a couple of fish and chips down to Padstow for some ladies. And she came back and she said, look, the place, it was only me and Lee working, everybody else was on furlough. And she said, look, I said, oh, do you think I can come in for an hour and just sweep and mop a little bit because it's quite messy? And I said, look, you're very welcome, you know. Anyway, she never left for 6 months.
I'm going to get a drink of water.
And we had a great time.
All over your wonderful conversation.
Are you good me one as well, brother?
Yeah, of course.
I'll give you a glass.
Coffee and everything.
Ah, no, don't worry about that.
I may edit some out.
Yeah. Need it at the end, don't we?
Yeah. I normally ask what the future holds, but I guess it'll be survival.
I'll tell you about the future, yeah. Well, the story continues, doesn't it?
Oh, we had a little break because I'm coughing and dying.
Yeah.
We're back with water.
You're presumably going to edit some of this out, don't you?
Probably not.
Doesn't matter. Sorry about the ad breaks there. We don't have any advertisers to sort of give us the gap there.
Yeah. Travisca is available for your needs. Keep it halfway home.
So then,
Well, yeah, COVID was good for me, to be honest, in a roundabout way. I remember the lockdown on the Sunday, because I was working at the hotel part-time, doing breakfast, which I'm still, actually I've gone back to, doing breakfast part-time at the hotel. On the last rota, I did 5 days. I'm the part-timer.
Yeah.
Everybody else on the rota was doing a 4-day week. I'm the part-time guy. But I'm not complaining.
was that lockdown or now?
That's like last week.
Oh,
Anyway, but during and we exactly the boys having the same thing. How can how can you lock down a country? And I said, yeah, it'll happen because they'll find the money. You do that in a state of war or a state of crisis, emergency, like proper emergency. Governments have to find the money. They just write off checks and we'll worry about it later. We have to do this now.
Well,
And I mean, it was a shock, but it was kind of suitable with what was happening in Europe. And I spent, like everybody, the first week or so cleaning the house, cleaning, jet washing patios and fences and doing all the stuff that you're supposed to have done in the last 6 months. And I already had my trailer in a field at Travone. And I thought, well, I could go and clean that. Because I remember just not being, no one was going out anywhere. I was like, I'll be okay, I'm in a car, I'm in a field, no one's going within a mile of me, it should be safe. And you're cleaning up and you go, well, I have got a production kitchen here, I'll do some sticky toffee pudding, that'll be fun. And then that snowballed a little bit quite quickly, online sales.
Yeah.
Like that.
You put some in the shop. I'm sure you did some walnuts,
Yeah, we used to
stickies.
do that. We used to do it with the Stein and Ainsworth. Somebody else as well, I think. We used to do the food run. I think it might have been the second lockdown when people were getting a bit more used to it, doing little food parcels and things. We used to take stuff up to the Cornish Arms. And Fergus would be there distributing. Anyway, and I remember having a welfare check from my then manager at the hotel, and I had my generator going in the field, my gas-powered generator, firing up my stickies. And posting them off and just having a high time. And he says, everything okay? And I said, I'm guilty, but I'm having the time of my life. I'll turn the generator off so I can hear you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to wish it on anyone, but it was an opportunity to do something different. And I think, everything else, I bought that kitchen, that trailer, to have my own kitchen again, but with no real idea of what I was going to do with it. And it just evolved. Everything I do is kind of customer-led. People ask me to do something, so you do it.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about private dining until someone asked me to do it. I think I'd done one. In all the time I was at Margaret, I did one or two.
Yeah.
And then markets. That was just, well, there was a market going at the Royal Showground for one of their covered market things,
Yeah.
Christmassy markets, and it was dirt cheap, like 30 quid or something for a stall. And I'll put a stall together and sell sticky with Dan. We can try stuff, and that was my start of coming back to being myself again.
Yeah.
Being
Gave you
self-employed.
purpose.
And then having this place, it's like you can try things. What's the worst that can happen? You can try it, and if it doesn't, then you try it. I mean, I did a Sunday lunch a week or so ago here.
Enjoyed it.
It was good fun. It worked. We might do it again. We might not. It's like the podcast. I was doing one a week, and now it's one a month. If you're lucky.
And it's sort of scraping the barrel here by getting me to chat. But
You were on the list from the get-go.
Thank you, brother. But,
So yeah, it's a matter of. So the future is, as
Well,
I say
so
to
then-
many people, you know, at the moment, survival is success, which is really.
do you know what
sad
it's
place to be.
associations? Associations come, so, you know, sort of, my story continues, really. Because in all this kindness that we do in the giving thing, but then with Trevesco's, we end up doing, I think Jackie Stanley is a force in Padstow. That lady gives. She just gives. She sort of drew me into the air ambulance sort of environment where air ambulance is very, very important for Cornwall. It saves serious amounts of lives.
Yeah.
And the big thing with air ambulance is not just Cornwall, but everywhere. There is not a penny of funding from the government for any of it. So it all becomes charitable money. And you know, Jackie being on the philanthropy forum, she sort of started doing heli dinners. The first one we did 4 or 5 years ago was a fundraiser dinner. Different chefs, all the chefs made step in, and we all do courses and bits and bobs. But you know, the kindness and giving goes through everybody's, not just from the cook side of things, but there's people in the world that are kind and want to give.
Yeah, absolutely.
With different means. And one of the people involved with Air Ambulance at the time, still is, was a lady called Karen Dickens, and we became friendly. And the friendship sort of grew into her. She's got serious business acumen and very good knowledge, and she sort of, so my business has evolved in the sense that with all these charitable people that we work with and you get to know them, you know, most of the time we need a charity rather than because we're in hospitality. And then you find friendships that become really important. And friendships that are knowledge-based. Our friendship is based on sharing knowledge and sharing a love for something.
Yeah.
And you know, and it doesn't really matter who you are, where you are in the world. It's important for human psyche to have a purpose. Whether it's peeling potatoes, whether it's doing roast dinners for the guests, whether it's doing an outside job, without having a purpose, we are nothing. So out of that, we've sort of found some really purposeful friends that sort of, you team up and you try and do something, and so we don't really know what the future holds. But I know that the future, I think, to start having the business conversations about hospitality. There's some, and I can only speak from the hospitality side of the business. I don't know about what's happening in the other industries, in the construction industry, in the transport industry, in there's so many different things, but we're at a huge disadvantage in our businesses. And it's a very simple thing, the government has to, all the recent changes, and I suspect it's going to get worse, because it's about providing people with the means to live. So ultimately, we're in agreement that minimum wages had to go up, and hospitality employs minimum wage. It's like ridiculous for how hard people work, but there's just no sponge in the pie at the minute.
Yeah, there's no margin.
Through all sorts of reasons, the human error element is quite prevalent in lots of our businesses. But ultimately, there is nothing easy in our industry. And we're really suffering with all the analysis that we look into it. And I believe the levels of taxation that's put upon us, put upon the country, is unjust. When I say it's unjust, we're trying to compete with a little country against a great big picture of Tom Kerridge on the side of Marks and Spencer saying, have a pub meal at home for 10 quid with a bottle of wine. And the problem is, that supermarket that's selling that 10 quid meal is not paying VAT on it. Our little businesses, whatever, we don't claim any VAT back on our purchases because food purchases does not have VAT apart from ice cream. And because what we are providing is prescribed as a luxury in hospitality, we get the 20% or whatever it's going to become, added on top of it. Whereas the supermarkets that are selling food are not. And the business conversation is, it just needs to be an even playing field, and it's not. And whether the powers that be that determine these levels of taxation don't understand it, or wish not to understand it, or whatever the lobbying or the input is, it's just not being heard. And what it's doing, it's not just costing people their income and their livelihoods, it's costing them their life's purpose by these small businesses failing. There's businesses that are 10 years, if a business survives for the first 2 years, technically it should be able to survive. But they're not.
No, it's a different economy than I've ever seen before, where top guys are failing, and this is not about you just sort the wheat from the chaff.
No.
Any downturn would sort out the bandits, and it's nothing to do with that. There's no margin to be made at the current level of VAT, especially. It doesn't add up, and it can't be good economics to allow all these closures, which just stops the tax revenue dead. If these people are unemployed, you close a pub, there's no duty coming in on beer sales, there's no VAT coming in on the food sales, there's no income tax coming from wages, but there may well be benefits going out because you've got,
Well, say those people that were employed in your business, they've got no recourse to funds other than the welfare system.
So they become a negative, and you've stopped the positive flow. So it is brutal economics that don't.
It just doesn't stack up.
It doesn't serve long term at all.
I'm a great believer in corporation tax. I'd love to make a fat profit and pay my corporation taxes. It's a great thing. To be able to pay corporation tax in these days is a privilege.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a privilege that I would love to have. But I just think compared to some of the other sort of, call it, not necessarily European nations, but some of what else is going on in the world with the level of VAT, you go to Spain, VAT on food, I don't care VAT on alcohol, it's your choice to drink alcohol or not, but you need to eat. And you might want to sit with your friends and eat in a little pub or a restaurant, or a nice restaurant for that matter. Just give us a chance to survive. Give us a chance to survive. Knock it down. Let's go to Spain's rate of 10%. I don't know if they're getting it right. I don't know. I just know that if we go to Spain and have a meal, it's a lot more affordable than here.
Yeah. I
For
think
all
it's
sorts of reasons.
So we'd like a VAT cut, please. Of the millions of people that will watch this video. Anything else you want to talk about? No.
It's important in life, isn't it? Our friends, people that loves us, we love people. You want to be kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we want to enjoy and love what we do. I love what I do, It's all about the meat.
Meat and very nice chips, I believe.
Well, chips is an issue because nobody realises that potato is a seasonal product. Which is why Mr. Kaufman's done so well with these frozen chips, isn't he?
Yeah. Now, but have you tried his potatoes?
No.
He does sacks of potatoes, right? And the chips are phenomenal. I've become a kind of market leader, and I'm sure there's telling over billions. And right, it's a great product. And Marco's doing these croquette things, which I did for Dole Foods at Expo, and they were great. They're a great product. Kaufman's potatoes were dog shit. And you go,
When did you have them? June.
but yeah, probably.
Yeah, there you go.
But you're putting Kaufman's name on something that ended up to speed. So,
Well,
yeah.
that's just, if you're having potatoes and it's June, July, okay, they're last year's old potatoes.
Exactly.
They've been in a shed or they've been underground, whatever, wherever they've been stored, they've had the life puffed out of them. Okay. So I used to live, and I still do now, the new season old potatoes. I can't wait for it. They're not the best for chips because they're very high moisture content. But it's so different than the limp things that you get. It's a seasonal, potato is a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
Not all of us know that, do we? So it's not always very nice. It's a battle sometimes.
You're trying your damnedest to make him as nice as possible.
Yeah, but we love peeling potatoes, don't we? That's what we do.
I'm going to thank you for your time.
Thank you,
your
my brother.
friendship, and
Thank you for having a chat. You're amazing.
it's another episode of thoughts. The reason I do this, I tell people this, is that I miss my dad.
Yeah.
I can't hear his voice because I'm sure there's some Betamax tape somewhere.
Yeah.
I realised this after I started doing this, that this, because you can't delete stuff off the internet, it's impossible. It's there forever. And this is a good thing, because you can pump that up there. And it's like a little ship in a bottle, or it's a little scrapbook that can go in the internet's attic. And Henry can have a look at that in 50 years' time and go, oh, this is my dad talking about his life.
Yeah, just never thought about that.
And, yeah, I think it's the fact that I can't hear my dad's voice.
Well, it's a really interesting thing that you mention that, because I had the privilege of knowing your dad. What a lovely man.
Cantankerous old sod, but...
Lovely, lovely man.
He still was a lovely man.
But it's interesting that you say about your dad's voice. Because obviously the memory, but the non-conscious memory of my dad is him shouting my name. You know, the voice is a very unique thing.
Yeah. So I think that's what another reason for doing this is, so that we have little snippets for people to discover in a million years' time, or 20 years' time or something. I don't mean to be morbid, but the thing about you die twice. When you die, and when the last time someone mentions your name.
Yeah, I've never thought of that.
So yeah, very morbid, but good fun.
Thank you, brother.
We're done. I mean, that's an hour and 12 of absolute